How ya? And welcome to episode 20 of the Temple Bard podcast with me, Jim Wynn, and Philip Noon. Philip, influencers.
We live in an age where an influencer probably makes more money than the Taoiseach.
Yeah, it seems that way anyway. It's hard sometimes to realise how they're making so much money.
Well, with the rise of OnlyFans, like there's people making 40 and 50 grand a month from their box bedroom.
There was a woman who was selling jars of her own farts for $5,000 each.
Jesus
you see that?
Christ.
That's a business you never would have thought of in the 90s.
Although, to be fair, did you ever hear about the Irish lads down in Kerry that were selling the Irish Air?
I've heard of that shit.
They were bottling Killarney Air and selling it.
Sending it to Americans who couldn't afford the flight, but they can afford an old bottle of Killarney Air.
If you're listening in America and you've got a bottle of Killarney Air on your mantelpiece,
comment. So we're all under the influence of several different factors that make up our personalities, makes up our tempers, our emotions. We're influenced by alcohol, by politics, by films, by literature, by peers, by everything. And
who do you say is your biggest musical influence?
Well, funny enough, the reason I started playing music, I'd say, is Oasis.
Right.
I wouldn't say I'm mad into them nowadays, but I'd say as far as influencing me and starting to play music, it would definitely be Oasis.
Yeah, they were huge at the time.
What about yourself?
Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah?
And I'm a shy guitar player. so that's, I think that was the biggest, conundrum of the whole lot, because I loved him when I was about 16 or 17.
Yeah.
So I learned like I got an electric guitar, I learned about 3 or 4 Jimi Hendrix songs, was like, this is going to be it. And then I got lazy.
Can I guess them?
Yeah.
Hey Joe.
Hey Joe, that was the first one.
Purple Haze.
Purple Haze was the second one.
All Along the Watchtower.
No, that wasn't one.
Okay, go on.
Voodoo Child was the other one.
Voodoo Child, right. Yeah.
But it's funny enough because I was mad into it then, and I don't think my guitar playing has progressed since 17 years of age.
Yeah,
I think
mine
that's
hasn't much either.
I think that's when it stopped. I learned as much as I could to be like, right, I can do this now.
Yeah. Mine was the same. I'd say it's got better in the last couple of years because I've practiced a lot more. I couldn't sing, so I just play the guitar more by itself. So I've learned a little bit more the last few years. But a lot of people, that's what happens. Like, you stagnate at some point and you just don't go much further. We could do, we know enough to learn pretty much any song. Probably a simplified version of it, maybe, not with all the 7th and 9th and add 13 chords and all this diminished, all this jazz. It's funny you say Jimi Hendrix because, after I got into Oasis and picked up the guitar, then of course Jimi Hendrix wasn't far behind in an influence, and you wanted to learn. So I learned a few of those, like the lead from a few of those songs.
Oh, he was belled.
Oh, he was a belled one, yeah. Well, people say, I saw a documentary about him that said that he never did drugs.
What?
That he never did heroin. Was it that he never did heroin? Or?
No. He never did heroin. So he died. He was with a German girl, and he was seen at the time, but she was
Jimi Hendrix and Jimmy Wynn in the same boat there.
Well, this one was mad possessive and mad jealous. And
I wish.
he was at some party and she came to get him, and she was like, "You're hanging around with all these people and all," and he was like, "No," and he had taken like barbiturates.
Right, yeah.
And then he went home and he drank 2 bottles of red wine, fell asleep, never woke up.
But there's a few conspiracy theories that
there are, yeah.
That he was worth more to his management, dead, insured out the wazoo, and that he was refusing to. He had the Jimi Hendrix Experience band, but then he split up that band.
Yeah, the Jimi Hendrix Experience was Mitch Mitchell and Noel Redding. Noel Redding actually lived in Cork.
Did he?
Yeah, I saw him playing in a bar down there called De Barras in Clonakilty.
I've heard.
And he's buried down there now in Cork. Yeah, he was a good bass player.
Yeah, the great drummer as well, because I think his kind of rhythm or tempo was all over the shop. So it was like to keep up with him, you have to find someone who grooves with you. You know, he wasn't playing to a click track, I don't think.
What would Jimi Hendrix think of all the influencers today?
I don't know. He seemed like he was very shy. You don't hear many interviews with him, do you?
No, it's because he was always off his nut.
Yeah,
just LSD.
He was just off learning how to make sweet, sweet love to the guitar and playing with his teeth and setting it on fire and all sorts of.
So he used to sleep with it. He used to bring the guitar, like, no, not sleep with it.
Like a Menendez brother with the safe.
So so he used to bring the guitar to bed with him and all.
No way.
That's why he was fucked out of the army, apparently.
Fraternising with a guitar.
He was a paratrooper. He was in the
I heard that.
In the parachute regiment and all. And he was fucked out of the army. He was doing really weird things with guitars and all, apparently. And they were like, "Get this boy out the door!"
Trying to shoot people with a Fender Stratocaster. This is my rifle. This is my guitar.
You run out of bullets.
This will make me dead. This will make me a star.
Jimmy, they're coming. Oh, Jimmy, you're fucking joking me, Jimmy. Put the guitar down, will you?
Do.
On the OnlyFans thing, Isn't that some explosion? Like,
Yeah, it's one of those things that I've never been on the site or anything. I've only heard about people, they said they have an OnlyFans. Because to me, like, if you're looking for something to get yourself off, there's loads of free porn. Like, why would you go bother with an OnlyFans?
This is what I reckon. Have you heard of pay pigs?
You said it to me before. Explain it for our.
So pay pigs are basically, their thing is they get off on paying women, like, to do things.
Yeah.
So, like, sometimes it's not even sexual things. Like, it's all about, like, financial domination, like Findom. Like, you could pay a girl to go out for a date with another guy, but you're getting the financial domination over the man by knowing you're paying for his meal and you're paying for their dinner and the whole lot.
Really?
Fuck that.
It's strange.
Fuck that.
I'd say grand, no bother. Thank you, Mr. Pay Pig.
Look, each to their own.
Each to their own, yeah.
100%,
Everyone's got a different view of it. But yeah, so it's strange. But that's what I mean. I haven't been on the site not because I'm like a holier than thou, but like if I was looking for something to get myself off, I'd just go look at some free porn. I wouldn't be out paying someone fucking money.
Funny enough, there was a girl I knew her now. She does very well on it, on OnlyFans. And she lived in Cyprus. And she was telling us, like, straight out, some fella asked her for a video. Did I ever tell you this? Of her feet with the cornflakes.
No.
So he was
I've heard
mad-
about
he-
people wanting feet videos before. But
So he was mad into feet. And he said to her, she's English, I'm going to give you £300 and I want a video of you to make a bowl of cornflakes out of your feet. So, like, her feet on the ground with cornflakes and milk all over them and all, and make, like, cereal out of her feet. And I was like, did you do it? And she was like, he gave me £300 and I've got 3/4 of a box of cornflakes in the kitchen. Of course
all the women who independent stepping on your cornflakes.
I was thinking, £300 for it.
Speaking of influencers, was there something about Beyonce there this week? I saw it on TikTok. Everyone was saying
with the Diddy stuff.
I didn't like. I just saw that she was mentioned, and I skip past them when I see them. But
So it's her and Jay-Z are apparently something's going to come out there somewhere.
On the list.
I don't. Well, look, allegedly, I don't know. But I think Jay-Z and her. Garth Brooks this week.
no way,
Rape allegations.
crazy.
Jeez, I'll tell you, that won't go down well in Leitrim.
Not our guards. Innocent until proven guilty.
I heard Leitrim have asked for their Wi-Fi to be cut off during the Garth Brooks trial. They don't want to see any of it.
Well, that's surprising.
He was bowled apparently now, and a former hairstylist.
He's hung around with some friends in low places. We know that.
Influencers, Under the Influence. So this is funny. There's an Eminem song called Under the Influence.
Right.
And it starts with back when Mark Wahlberg was Marky Mark.
Yeah.
Mark Wahlberg is influenced by God. Like,
Yeah.
he was in jail and all when he was like 15, 16, so wasn't he nuts?
He used to steal cars and stuff.
Now he's got this app where you do the rosary. It's called the Hallow app.
Right.
And like you wake up in the morning and everybody does like the rosary and like it's like
Yeah, well, I think we're all influenced by God because we all are God. But yeah, to him, his point of view is to be
children of
Christian, and go about it that kind of. Is it like through one of these evangelical jobs or?
No, he's staunch Catholic.
Oh, he's a Catholic.
Yeah,
is he?
yeah, staunch Roman Catholic.
It seems to have made him a more peaceful person. He seems to be. I remember, didn't he say something controversial? Do you remember the show back in the 90s? It was in England. It was around the Oasis time. It was your man from Manchester used to do it. It was called The Juice, or I can't remember what it was called.
Right. Zane Lowe or one of those?
No, he was like Zane Lowe. No, Terry Christian.
Right.
It was called, I can't remember what it was called. But anyway, he was on it before, and Shabba Rank was on it. And he had and he was saying all things about gay people, about how they should be killed and all these horrible things. And Marky Mark said like he's entitled to have his opinion or something, and like caused a lot of controversy with him. I think he lost. He was doing Calvin Klein boxer things, and he lost his.
And he lost all that.
He lost his sponsorship because of that. Like
Jesus Christ.
Like if you listen to it, he wasn't backing up what Shabba Rank said. He was just saying that he was entitled to have his opinion, which is probably a silly thing to say. But
imagine if he said it now.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
There's no amount of rosary to get him back.
Oh my God. Fun fact about Mark Wahlberg, he was supposed to be on one of the planes on 9/11.
Was he, yeah?
Ended up, now this is the alleged part of it, ended up sleeping in with an escort, allegedly.
Right.
No, do you know what? I probably have to cut. Nah, leave it in. Fuck it, I don't care. Ended up sleeping in late by himself in bed.
Yeah.
And missed the flight. Now, he definitely ended up sleeping in late and missing the flight. But apparently there was a few stories that he was bowled, he was at some party or he was in the middle of something, doing something.
You got a phone call from P. Diddy and said that plane's not going to make it.
Him, Seth MacFarlane as well. Seth MacFarlane. was
I heard,
supposed to be-
yeah, I've heard a few people that were supposed to be on the planes. Imagine that. That's a big wake up to you if you find out that you could have
There's
been.
actually there's a lad from Cavan I knew, and he was supposed to be there, but he broke his leg playing. Did I ever tell you this? Playing AstroTurf a few weeks before it.
No.
And he was sitting at home in a full cast, looking at I think 48 or 49 of his. He was telling me like his colleagues.
Yeah, that was a crazy event.
Perished.
I mean, I think, like the generation or two before had the moon landing. That was our big thing. I remember, I'll never forget it. Like I was hungover. I woke up one morning. I was, whatever it was in 2001, 18 or 19. And it was on the telly. It was the news cycle. And it was crazy to see.
Oh man.
Crazy to see.
So my grandfather died in August 2000, and I moved in with my grandmother because she was by herself. So I was living with her. But I was Mitch in school that morning.
Yeah.
So me and another fella, we had a tent up in like a forest near the house, and like loads. That's where we'd all go. So like we'd all go mitching at different times. We were really bold, right?
Yeah. Go to school, kids.
And go to school, kids. Stay in school. But we went mitching, and we had a hand. Do you remember the handheld televisions? And they had the aerials.
Jesus, no, we never got one of them.
Did you not have one of them? So like these were like handheld televisions, and they had like aerials, and you could get like RT1, RT2, BBC1, BBC2.
No way.
I didn't know to be all grainy and all, but
Yeah,
like
yeah.
this was like we were.
I only
Like,
saw them on the TV.
oh, these were class,
Yeah.
right? And big bricks of things like with
Need a
tiny
TV
screens.
license for it.
And
Someone comes knocking on the tent. How is lads? The machine says, you have a telly in there.
so we were there watching it, and we was like, oh my god! So we ran down to my granny's. We were like, look at this, look at this, look at this, and I think it was about maybe 1:30 or 2 o'clock, and we were in her house watching it on Sky News when the second plane was coming in.
Yeah.
And we were watching it. I was like, that's another plane. They were like, no, it's not. I was like, I swear to God, that's another plane. They were like, no, they're just because they kept showing the first plane.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
kept just showing. And I said, look at this. And next thing, they went into it, and they were like, oh, because at that stage we hadn't seen footage of the first one. We'd only seen different
Yeah, that's what I
angles
was
of the
gonna say
building on
to you
fire.
there,
I think the footage of the first one that came out was the firemen. They were fixing a fire hydrant, and then
Yeah.
one of them just kind of looked up and just
Yeah,
seen
yeah.
that.
You just seen the fuselage go in.
Like I'm still kind of borderline obsessed with it. I don't know if it's like a traumatic thing that's inside me or something, but I'm fascinated by watching videos of it because it was just so shocking at the time.
Speaking of influence, has anything influenced the way the world has gone as much in the last 20 or 30 years? Like it was one of the biggest. It influenced all the stuff that's going on in the Middle East. I mean, there was obviously stuff going on before, but it influenced all the America going in there. It influenced like the way travel went.
Like the Gulf
Before-
the Gulf War was relatively quiet compared to what came
Yeah,
after.
yeah,
then, like.
exactly. Yeah, the Gulf War was. You could say it was seen as a failure, although I think probably they got what they wanted out of it. Like I think it's not about winning the war; it's about keeping it going and keeping the arms.
That's a red flag.
Here
for
we
this
go
week,
again.
folks.
Shit. We're cutting this, maybe. Well, it
We got 11 minutes that time without ending up on the watch list.
yeah. It influenced the world in such a way. The world was never the same after that. I think it changed politics. It's in the way like it was like a moment in time where since then things have just got stranger and stranger. Some people think it gets worse, but I just think it's what I think it's the duality's collapsing, and I think that was a big event. That was like one of the first waves of this duality collapsing business, and one of our first opportunities to see it. So a lot of people, if you remember the days after it, in the first few days after it, everybody was for America, and it was all an outpouring of love, and then slowly that turned into a bit of hate, and then people were generalizing, and Muslims were hated and hurting America, and then so it kind of went from sympathy, and George Bush was loved, and then over time it kind of the facade fell from it.
Doesn't that happen with a lot of ideas?
Yeah.
Like, I can use another example of that Brazilian man who saved the girl last year. Remember the guy stabbed all those kids in Dublin, and everybody loved him for about 2 days, and then all of a sudden all this hate started creeping in from the far right because he was good as long as he made 60,000 from his GoFundMe, but once he started making 500,000, nah.
That's a bit much.
Now, do you know? But that's the way it
Yeah.
was. It's like, and that happens a lot with ideas. In the beginning, an idea can be loved until it picks up a bit of traction, and then for no reason at all, it can just start to turn sour, and then everybody just fucking jumps on it.
It's the same with even physics. If you, the faster you go, the more momentum you get, the more resistance you get. It's the same with just the physics of everything. Like, so it's as above, so below kind of thing. So I was watching a film last night, Platform 2.
You were telling me about this.
If anyone hasn't seen Platform 1, it's an amazing film. It's on Netflix, and it's about these. I think there's hundreds of platforms, and they send food down, and by the time it gets to a certain level, all the food's gone because no one's caring about the people above and below them. It's kind of a commentary on socialism and capitalism. So the second one was on yesterday. I won't spoil it for anyone, but it was kind of.
But he's a ghost.
but he was dead the whole time.
He was dead the whole time.
I won't spoil it for anyone, but what happened in it, like, it's kind of, it shows you that there's people that are taking up like a socialist position where they're threatening violence to anyone that doesn't live up to the rules because they want the best for everyone from their opinion. But over time, that turns into a dictator, which is what always has happened with socialism throughout history. And then there's capitalists who just want freedom, and then that breaks down into only the few get loads and the rest get left behind. So I just thought it was a good commentary on that. The Platform 2 is new. The first one was a few years ago I saw it. But as I say, like, socialism and capitalism is just another duality, and obviously the answer's in the middle. It's not like we always have arguments about why socialism doesn't work or capitalism doesn't work, but no one ever tries to say, can we not just take the best out of both of them and put them together? It's the easy thing, like, 'cause it's the same with people on the right or the left of politics. Like, why does it have to be one extreme or the other? The answer's in the middle. It's about compromise and compassion, not being influenced by the
influencers.
Not being influenced by the extremes.
Yeah.
And having our own opinions and realising even when our side is going a bit too far. You know what I mean? Being able to recognise that in your own political or team or whatever.
I suppose that's why I've never had the urge to get into politics in any way at all, because, like, I've never found a political party that I fully agree with.
Back in the day, like, as musicians and as people, like, we're generally supposed to be, like, more on the left, you know, because it's been seen as the party where it's more fair for more people, and which is fair enough. But obviously, there's extremes to both sides, and I can now look at people on the left and the right, and I can see their points of view, and I don't see representation for the masses. I see parties that cater to the extremes.
Yeah,
that's what it seems to be.
Funny enough, just when you talk about that, Daniel Ek, the
Spotify
CEO of Spotify, came out this week, and he said the reason he's not paying musicians, the reason musicians aren't making what they would have made for, like, right, I've got millions of streams on Spotify, right? If this was the 90s, I'd be fucking minted, right? Minted.
We'd be recording this in a gold house.
You know what I mean? Like, if you had millions of people listening to your songs in the 90s, like, you'd be minted. But Daniel Ek reckons and he's an Arsenal fan, so this kills me to say it as well. He reckons because it costs so little now to make music.
I think I might have heard him say that, yeah.
This is what he's saying. Like, that's... And then Jake Bugg. I love Jake Bugg.
Me too.
I think he's very good. So he's coming to play now.
Aaron Rowe's
supporting him, yeah.
Big out, shout out Aaron Rowe. If you haven't heard of him, keep your fucking ears out.
Keep your
he's
eyes
going to come in. He's coming in hot.
Aaron Rowe is, what a voice.
Oh, he's a fucking unbelievable. One of the best still here.
He's out in Nashville at the minute, I saw.
Yeah, he's out in America. He's off. He's traipsing through the world with superstars everywhere.
Hopefully get him as a guest on.
We're hoping to get him on as a guest sometime. Yeah, I was talking to him recently. Hopefully we can fit into his schedule. But yeah, keep your ears out for Aaron. He'll be out soon with something.
And so Jake Bugg was saying, if only the people at the top are the ones getting all the exposure, which they are.
Yeah.
If you go on Spotify, all you're being pushed is Taylor Swift and Eminem and Charlie XCX, whoever the fuck that is, I don't know. I just see her name every day.
Yeah.
Charlie XCX, Chapel Roan. Although Chapel Roan's quite good.
There's a new one. She's a girl. People keep asking me in gigs to do her song.
Sabrina Carpenter.
Yes, that's what it is.
She's with Barry Keoghan, the actor. Well,
is she?
So, actually, I'm going to put this out here now. I fucking hate her, right?
Right. I don't know anything about her.
So, she was really bold, right?
Right.
I like Barry Keoghan. I like his character. I like what he is. I like where he came from. I love his story.
Right.
She made a song called Please Don't Prove I'm Right or something, right? And it's basically her singing about him and saying, like, don't get drunk and embarrass us at these parties and things. Apparently, like, he's a bit of a nut job with a few pints in him or whatever.
Yeah.
And she just goes to town and slates him in the video or in the song. And I was like, fuck you, love. Like, he's one of ours.
Are they still together?
So I don't know if they're on or off. This is the thing, like. But I remember listening to it, and it's, you know, it's a bit of a slating, and I was like, no, he's fucking Irish. Leave him alone.
Yeah, he's not a problematic drunk. He's Irish.
He's Irish. Even one of the lines in it is like, people tell me it's your culture, and I'm supposed to think that's okay. Yeah, it is okay.
It's the culture, right? It's not a problem. We can quit anytime we want. Yeah, well, I think the Spotify thing now is an interesting one because millions of streams. You could say that's not like buying a single or a album, you know what I mean? No. So you could say like someone could buy your album back in the day or a single like for a $5 and then play it 1,000 times in perpetuity. So I get it in that kind of way. Also, it must be hard. Well, what happened was with Spotify when all the streaming came in with the Napster and everything like that, the record companies got turned upside down and slowly they've been grabbing back control. Like all the big majors.
Oh, I went through
now
3 PCs. LimeWire went through 3 of my PCs. Yeah, waiting 45 minutes to download Purple Pills by D12.
Yeah, was it worth it? The 45 minutes?
Yeah, well, look, it was probably something else I was downloading as well at the time. I'd say. I was young. I was 17.
It was pictures of the plane hitting Tower 2.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Or a girl's feet with
cereal
stepping on the towers. Yeah, so it changed. The music industry changed completely. It is ridiculous that you can get millions of streams and not make really any money out of it. But also, I think there are more people making money from music than before.
Well, it's funny, like, so a mate of mine the other day, he just put into the WhatsApp group, he was in a pub in Hungary, in an Irish bar, and he put into the WhatsApp group, he's like, oh, your songs on the...
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So so they had it on a playlist, like a Spotify playlist.
Yeah.
Probably just one of those, because it's on a lot of Irish, all the big Irish playlists. So there's people in Hungary listening to that song there, like, how much of that will I see? You know what I mean, Daniel?
Not enough for a pint in Budapest, that's for sure. Anyone who doesn't know about it, a lot of people who are musicians will know how it works when you release songs. You're trying to get onto these playlists. It's the way to go forward. And I was on a different distributor and I took down my album that I put out because there was a lot of songs in it I didn't like the way they came out. And the ones that I did like, I remastered and got new artwork for and re-released one. I re-released a few of them now, but I re-released one and I completely changed the ISRC, which is like, so it came out like never been released before.
So the ISRC is
a code that they use to track streams and sales. So I just released this, got it on a few playlists, and then all of a sudden it got onto a Spotify release radar.
You see, that's all it takes.
Yeah.
Once you get one of your songs on one of them, like, especially, do you know where Spotify have these like Sunday morning coffee playlists?
Yeah.
Your streams could go from like, let's say you had 6,000 or 7,000 streams to like 4 million in like a couple of weeks.
So they have this thing where you can pitch the song, but I didn't even pitch the song to them.
I just
released it and I don't know how they got it. Like, it must be on one of the other playlists.
Ask no questions.
Yeah, ask no questions.
Ask no
I'll
questions.
say nothing. I'll still get no money from it, so I don't like, you know what I mean? But still, it was funny because I've tried pitching songs to them before and never got anywhere with it.
But it's like the algorithm. It's like social media. You know, it's just we post stuff and we're like, you know, is it going to do? And next thing, something will take off that we don't expect, and then something else that we think will do well. We'll just sit and it'll get 10 views.
Yeah, it's hard. I sent you a video earlier. There's for TikTok anyway. The influence. This is the influence of the algorithm. TikTok, when you first release your video, it shows it to a select group of people who they think might fit the niche of what they think your videos are. And if that gets picked up by a bit of engagement or so long watched in general, then it'll go up to the next, which is the 200, 300 level. And if then it gets a bit more traction, then it goes up to the 700 level. Right. And then it goes up and up and up. But I can hear people say that and it makes sense. But then we've got ones that go to 600 or 700 and they start getting loads of engagement and they just stop views.
Yeah, it's mad.
It's hard to explain. I don't know how these algorithms work.
But anybody that is listening, thanks a million. We have a message in this week from Shamey doing his regional work in Australia. How are you, Shamey? How's things?
How are you, Shamey? G'day, mate.
I think you do your regional to get your second year. Is that how it works?
Yeah. Is that where you have to do the
fruit picking and things like that?
Yeah. That's rough.
So
rough
he just said regional, so I don't know. I don't know what he's doing.
My brother did it picking mangoes.
Nice.
Apparently it gets all into your skin and it's rough, but you know, here it's pissing rain here, so you enjoy that, Shamey.
Have a good one, Shamey. And so if you're listening to this now, just click. There should be a little follow button. Even if you never listen to us again, just click the little follow button. It just It just helps the.
Yeah, it helps grow the podcast, and we've seen it growing steadily here, and we're very happy. We can see that people are going back and listening to older episodes, because the episodes that you listen to, they're not in any chronological order. You can listen to one at any time. They're just shite talk and, and our opinions.
Or when we both die, maybe you'll be able to go back and the whole thing has been a massive Easter egg in that we've linked everything intricately, and you have to kind of sit down. Do you ever see Con Air?
Yeah, of course I've seen Con Air.
Do you know when they get into Cyrus Grissom's cell and they take out the map, meet Carson City.
Yeah.
So if you take out a picture of the Last Supper and you cut all the eyes out of everybody at the table, and you print out all our podcasts and you lay them down length by length,
the thumbnails,
thumbnails, and you just put the tapestry over of the picture. It's the secret to the world. It's the secret to the universe. In there,
it just says it was an inside job.
It was the dualities have collapsed.
The dualities have collapsed. All is one and all is love. Yeah, well, influence. We find ourselves under the influence of bias, which is conscious or subconscious. So we all have our biases, probably through our upbringing. We have our bias like a football team we support, or a political party we follow, or a set of ideals that is usually brought to our parents, or else you go completely against your parents' ideals because you're triggered to go that way. So it's just we're all influenced by so many things, and we forget that sometimes. We think that sometimes we try to paint ourselves as victims of what influences us. I don't think that's helpful for us. I think we have to kind of take a bit of ownership and realise that this is the path we've...
That's very interesting you should say that, because I think you should elaborate on that a bit, because that's a lot of people could probably resonate with that. I think a lot of people get caught up in not blaming, but over-identifying with what they feel may have influenced them at an earlier age to become the person they are now. And instead of laying blame on things...
From my perspective, everything that happens in our lives is not pre-planned, but was likely or possibly to happen. Like, the emotions that we come to deal with, the trauma we suffer, not like word for word, this is going to happen to me, is how it's planned out. But before you get here that you're going to go through these things. And once you can keep that as your kind of North Star, you can see when you were a victim. Like, being a victim is a choice. To identify as being a victim is your own choice. It's a horrible circle to get into. And other people also project victimization onto people as well.
It's very easy to say that. But what if at an age where a lot of people weren't responsible for what happened? So in their cerebral development...
You're not responsible for what happens to you. I'm not saying you can't be a victim of a crime or a horrible thing, but I'm saying to go on in life and identify yourself as that victim.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. So where does that start, or where does that stop?
Well, it really starts and stops with realising that you have the choice. I mean, people don't realise it. It's not their fault they don't realise it. It's a process that we're all going through, is waking up to the realisation that we are not our thoughts. We are not what happens to us. We're far greater, far bigger, far more infinite and loved than we could ever imagine. And I wouldn't say this to someone. I'm saying, giving you my opinion in general here. I'm not saying I'm just saying that from my point of view, identifying as a victim is a circle of suffering that you keep in yourself. So you're a victim of something that happens to you, and then you perpetuate the circle by keep living that story over and over again in your own head as a victim.
I think what we did there was a lot of people, because when I heard it, in that I was thinking, if I didn't know better, all I was told there was, it's don't be a victim. But a lot of people don't know how to get out of that cycle, because that cycle can be addictive.
Yeah.
And that big because trauma can be addictive.
Yeah. And there's no should. People should do and can do whatever they want. I'm just saying, from my point of view, what I've learned in my own experience, and I'm not comparing my suffering to anybody else's or saying this is better or worse. I'm saying the more that you identify as the things that are happening to you, the more suffering you go through on yourself. Now, some people will live their whole lives just believing and identifying themselves as the victim of something terrible that happened to them. And I'd have huge compassion, huge empathy, and huge love for someone who's going through that, because it's not easy. But at some point, you are perpetuating it as your own identity. You're grasping to it in a way. You have the choice that you're holding on to it. Often it's done subconsciously. So it's getting out of that, how to break that circle. It's like we said with the paedophile things. How do you break the cycle where it keeps happening from one generation to another? It takes someone to just say, to have the realization, to be lucky enough or to be ready enough to break that cycle and say, I'm not a victim. I'm reading a book at the moment. It's all about pre-life planning.
Right.
And the chapter I'm on at the minute is about a girl who was abused by her granddad and her dad. And she goes through hypnosis and goes back. And it turns out in her past lives, they've had all these things happen. And she knew before she came into this life. Now, you can believe this or not. She knew that it was a possibility that she'd go through this before she get here. But she knew that if she could get to a place of forgiveness, she would stop the cycle going forward. So that was her story. And again, it's not like you should do this. I'm just giving you an example of something I've read.
If we're to look at it from her perspective, what are the perspectives of the father and the grandfather in their cycles?
Yeah, they talk about it in the book. In previous lives,
are you destined to be evil?
No, you're not destined to be evil. It's like a balance thing. There's
Right.
people you could be evil in one life and then you'd be good in another one, and it's how you balance it out. It's usually something opposite. There really is no good or evil. It's there is no you or me. We play roles. So they said in this case that she, one of them, I can't remember if it was the grandfather or the father, she had been a man in a previous life and had done something horrible to one of them. And so to balance it out karmically,
Jesus Christ.
You know what I mean? So it's like, when you think of it from an egoic or human perspective, it sounds like horrific. But to me, I've had this spiritual awakening. So to me, it's just the waves balancing out. It's chaos, and it has to be slowed down. And how do we slow down the chaos? And it comes through acceptance and forgiveness. Like Jesus would say, before I had this spiritual experience, it was just empty words. Jesus says forgive. But now I can see it. Like, it's true acceptance and forgiveness is how you stop the chaos. So it's not, and I'm not telling someone you have to forgive or you should forgive. I'm just saying, if you can, I believe you'll be more peaceful within yourself.
So right there, that's the point I wanted us to get to right there. Okay. I just didn't know how we were going to get there. I was just how are we going to get there? So that was perfect. That was it right there.
Right. Yeah. So, and nothing I say is my opinion that I'm trying to force on anybody else. If you think I'm talking shite, you just think I'm talking shite.
No. It was lovely. It was just the way we were saying it. I just wanted us to get there so that everybody could understand it in whatever way they were going to do it themselves.
Yeah, there's so much suffering in the world, and you see what all the stuff with Israel and Palestine now at the minute, and you can just it's easy to lose hope. But when you have that perspective that at some level we've all kind of chosen to go through these things. So if I see someone who's going through a war zone now, I know at some level I've been in a war zone before in lives, future or past. I will again. It's my journey to balance that thing. So.
And when does the cycle stop?
The cycle stops when we enter the next level of consciousness, which is
samsara.
Yeah, which is the unity consciousness, which I believe that we're on the cusp of now. So
some people call it heaven.
Heaven or fourth density or the fifth dimension. There's loads of different terms for it. It's all the same thing. What I think is that so many of us will kind of graduate to that level after these lives or within the next few lives. Some of us won't, and we'll go back and we'll do the cycle again. There's no aspect of rush or pressure. We'll all get there when we're supposed to be there. It's like a flower opening on a tree. You know what I mean? The flower doesn't look at the other flower that's not opened yet and says, that flower is not as good as me. It's just waiting for its time. And we're all just doing that.
I'm just thinking about how we're going to market this. I'm just thinking about how. So right now you're somewhere between Alex Jones and Terence McKenna. So I'm just like right. I'm just like how do we make this fucking commercial? So for anybody who doesn't know about the podcast, we have a hugely different dynamic in that I'm always thinking about the commercial side of things. I'm always trying to think of the pop culture element and of keeping the content and the numbers and the viewers and keeping everything entertaining.
And the feet in the ground.
And Winner's bringing this raw, unified, honest, balanced energy and his perspective to the realm of everything. So it's always nice to kind of, we agree on some things, we don't agree on other things.
Yeah.
But we're very, very together, and we're very, very different on this path.
Yeah.
And I think that's what works.
That's it. That's perfect. Like, as I say, it would be no fun if we were all the same. We all believe the same thing. It's learning to love people and spend time and get along with people who we don't agree with.
You know what? Actually, we're not cutting any of this. right? Let's leave it as it is. We do those. Fuck it. Let's leave.
And so when I say that what I believe, that influences you in some way, and what you believe influences me in some way, ways consciously and subconsciously that we can't fathom, and we're all influencing each other, whether we see it as negative or positive. We're all influencing each other, and I believe we'll get to a point where we'll see that we all are actually the same thing, and that's a point that we're getting to.
Which is love.
Which is love. Which is pure unity. Which is love is not like, it's beyond language. Love is just a word that can be dropped anywhere, but it's beyond that. I've been lucky enough to kind of, what I feel like I've told you before, I've cracked the egg, but I'm still not the chicken. I've seen the light, but I'm still not the chicken. I'm still in the egg. We all are. Most of us are anyway. I'm sure some of us have started pecking away out, got a bit more light, but we're all on the journey, and we all will be the chicken. Well, folks, that's it for episode 20 of the podcast with me, Jim Wynn, and Philip Noon. I hope we haven't influenced you in a good or bad way.
Sláinte.